Everyone, and welcome to Sandler's 30-minute live webinar series. My name is Rich Austin. I'm going to be your host today as we examine the concept of building a hunter's mentality in account management, something that a lot of us like to talk about, but very hard to execute in reality. So look, the way that I see it, the hardest part is over. You're here, you've turned up this morning. And so now the challenge is for you to stay present and commit yourself to finding at least 2 nuggets of gold that you can apply in your world that are going to make a meaningful difference for you in business and in your sales life. So my advice to you is to keep your head where your feet are. In other words, stay present, stay with me, stick around, because at the end, we're going to offer you a pretty potent piece of technology that can fit into your sales world that I believe will be a game changer for you. So we're happy to offer that. By the way, on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, excuse me, we are live, so excuse the hiccups. The bottom right hand of your screen, you're going to see a chat box, and I'm going to encourage you to participate and answer questions and send us anything that you want to send us. And in turn, we're going to send you a couple of links that we're going to ask you to download that are going to help you in your journey as account managers. And so let's make sure that thing works. So here's my first question and my first challenge. If you would, kindly share with me and share with us, what are your biggest challenges in account management? Just 1 or 2. What's the biggest thing that you're hoping to get from today? If you would, submit that in the chat box, and we're going to come back to it in a minute, and my team over here is going to help me understand what you're hoping to accomplish. So let's do this. Some of you are intimately familiar with us. You know Sandler inside and out, and for others of you, this is your very first exposure to Sandler, and so you might be asking, who are we? Sandler is a professional development firm. We've been in business for 50 years, so we've got a lot of great sales data that we're going to share with you. But in truth, we're a behavioral change organization, and so our focus then becomes sales process refinement and leadership consulting. So those are the 2 areas and the 2 buckets in which we play. And our goal ultimately is to help our clients never look like, act like, sound like, be perceived like, smell like the stereotypical salesperson, because we all know how we treat salespeople, and it's not at a high level. Our goal is to help our clients look like, act like, behave like, be perceived like, smell like a legitimate business person. And again, those 2 personas, the salesperson and the legitimate business person, are very different. So we're going to share with you our take on that in the world of account management as we go through our 30 minutes today. So let's do this. Let's talk a little bit about how we're going to spend our time. Our agenda is going to look at 4 bullets, and I've got some bonus material for you as well. But number 1, the 5 levels of sales competency that are going to build trust within your business. We're going to take a look at that. 4 actionable buckets to target new and repeat business so that you can become indispensable as an account manager. Here's what I oftentimes hear. The business development reps get all the glory in my organization, and me as an account manager just managing accounts. How do I make myself indispensable? How do I put myself up on a pedestal like the business development reps in my organizations, the BDR? So we're going to talk a little bit about that, because my goal for you is to help you become indispensable in your organization. Lead generation tactics to build into your behavior plan. Here's one thing we know: typically account managers are hesitant or resistant to build new relationships in terms of who else can we be doing business with. So I'm going to give you some tactics for that. And then finally, some time management hacks to build hunting into your weekly must-do list. So that's where we're going to go. Let's take a time out for a second. Team, what have we heard back from our participants so far?
Getting new business.
All right, getting new business. Awesome.
Getting that price is the main objective of the customer.
Okay, so the main objection is price. Good.
Sales service trap.
Sales service trap. That's a Sandler trained individual right there.
John Jignet.
John, nice.
Jim Watson, account attention versus volume of accounts.
Okay, good. Account retention versus volume.
Attention. Maintaining a good follow-up system.
Okay, maintaining a good follow-up system. So we're going to stop there. So thank you for participating. Again, I want to keep you awake, so I'm going to keep prompting you with questions. Here's the question. Have you ever asked yourself, what separates the elite account managers from the rest of the herd and the rest of the pack? I'm going to share with you right now what that looks like. It's this. It's an account management playbook. And so my question for you leaders that are on the webinar this morning, and for the rest of you who are producers on the webinar this morning, is, have you taken the time to build an account management playbook that predicts success, that encompasses all the elements that we have to execute on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis that says we're going to be elite performers? Have we taken the time to do that? What we found in our data is 1 out of 100 companies have done this. And this doesn't just apply to account managers, it applies to every single position in your organization. So does everybody know what they have to do, at what level, at what frequency, and can they build their skill sets around these things? So I've got 14, 15 different elements in this playbook. My playbook might look different than yours. But what you see in red are the elements that are highlighted, that when we go into organizations and we analyze and do an audit of what they've got in place, these are the most critical and these are the ones that are typically missing. So you can take notes if you'd like, but 30-second commercials. Do I have a short, concise, potent, pain-filled 30-second commercial for every product and every service that we sell, so that at any turn, at any opportunity, when I'm having a conversation with my key account person and they say, do you guys do this? I can share with them in 30 seconds what it looks like through the eyes of pain, not features and benefits, but pain. Referral scripts. If we want our job really in account management is to what? Nurture and grow those accounts. We're farmers by nature, but we can still hunt. We can turn on that hunting mentality. And so that referral might mean we're going to be referred to somebody within their organization. It might mean we're going to be referred to somebody outside their organization. We might then take that referral and hand it over to a BDR, a business development rep. It doesn't matter what it looks like, but if you want to become indispensable in your organization and raise your stature and respect level, we got to start asking for referrals. And do we have a playbook that says this is how we do it, with grace and tact and finesse? Let's take a look at this. A growth account builder strategic plan. Do we have a strategic plan for each and every one of our accounts that says this is how we're going to attack it? Care, I'm going to talk to you about later, but how do we compartmentalize each and every one of our accounts and the people within those accounts so that we can move the ball down the field? Overcoming objections. Here's what we know. It doesn't matter what your role is in sales. Here's the issue. The average salesperson cannot overcome the top 5 objections that they routinely are handed from their prospects. And so are we practicing that? Are we repping that? Are we role playing that? Does iron sharpen iron within our organizations? And so that's the challenge I'm going to issue to you today. Something else, price increases. Does it ever happen over the course of time that we have to increase our fees? Yes, it does. Do we know how to handle those conversations? And I'll use this term again, with grace and tact and finesse, while keeping equal business stature. And most organizations, we haven't figured that out. And then here's something else, bad news. How many times do we have to deliver bad news? Internally to salespeople in our organization or support folks, implementation folks, project management folks, and then externally to the key account folks that we're having conversations with in our accounts. We have to tell them things like, we can't do that. We have to tell them things like, that won't fit. We have to tell them things like, we have to increase your price. So there's a number of elements within this playbook that I would challenge you to build out for yourself, so that when you're in the moment, you can rock and roll. You've got the talk tracks up here, and you don't have to worry about thinking on the fly. A couple of other ones here. Position transition talk tracks. How many times in the course of a year do we see people getting promoted, demoted, fired, moved into new organizations in which our key account person is no longer there? Have we gone wide and deep enough within that account to weather that storm? Most of us haven't. And then finally, project implementation plans. Once we sell a piece of business, do we have a rock solid upfront contract or meaningful expectation that says, here's what's going to happen next? So here's what I'm going to ask you to do, if you would, for me, in the chat box, bottom right hand side, send to Lindsay and Missy, which of these 14, 15 elements are you really strong in? And then what's the one that if you put some time, effort, and energy into it over the course of the next 3 quarters of 2019, it would improve your financial bottom line and your emotional bottom line. So it'll make you more money and it'll take away stress. It'll give you more confidence in what you do. Let's change the page here. Here's another element to your playbook that I didn't mention before, and that's, do you have a sales process that's predictable and repeatable and that you can rely upon? You see mine here behind me. Mine doesn't have to be yours, but the bottom line is, do you understand what happens from hello to we're shaking hands and doing business to implementation after that? And is it predictable? Is it repeatable? For us, I'm not going to go through all of these, but the bottom line is this: bonding and rapport. We have to build trust. And I'm going to share with you a 5-step model for trust in which we can do that to become a legitimate business person, not just a salesperson. Meaning upfront contracts, or a meaningful expectation for how we're going to do business. Too often, what we find in account management is we promise too much and then we can't deliver on it, or we're doing too much for too many. All of a sudden, our capacity starts to fall and drop, and we can't service our clients the way that we want to service them. Pain. Emotional buy-in. Have we gotten down to the emotionally compelling reasons, if I can spell, there we go, you know what I'm talking about. Emotionally compelling reasons that would compel somebody to change what they're doing now to do something different, and doing that something different with you. We then have to understand, are they willing and able to part with the budget, and that's time, resources, and money in order to fix that pain. They can't just give you a check. They have to be willing to invest the time. Decision, how do they make decisions? What's their process? We have to understand that. And then finally, our closing step is fulfillment. We call it fulfillment because it's essentially preordained. If we understand what their emotionally compelling reasons are, we understand what their budget looks like, we know exactly how they make decisions. Now it's just up to us to prove to them that they've been heard and understood, and we do that in our fulfillment step. And then finally, post-sell, where we give them expectations for what's going to happen next. And for you account managers on this call, and I can't stress this enough, this is the best time for us to ask for referrals. Why? Well, number one, they're never going to be happier with you than they are now because they just bought something. Number two, you haven't screwed anything up yet in terms of what they've purchased. And so why don't we set the expectation for, let's ask for referrals right up front. So this is a key element of that playbook. Again, 1 out of 100 companies have this playbook, and even less than that have all 14 or 15 elements. So let's do this. I'm going to ask you to audit and examine in today's workforce in terms of salespeople in general. Here's how we do this. So we're going to divide them into the top 20%. As you know, the 80-20 rule, 20% of the people make 80% of the income, and that is definitely true in account management as well. 20% of the folks out there who are in account management role are high performers, elite performers. They go above and beyond. They outperform everybody else. You got 60% who are mediocre performers. They're in the middle, high one month, low the next month. We call them heartbreakers because they show promise, but then they always die on the vine. And then finally, 20% are low performers who are either struggling to get up to speed or have been around for a while and it's just not clicking with them. So here's my question for you. How much time do the lowest 20%, the low performers, spend on revenue generating activities over the course of a week? Just take a guess, and if you would, send it right now to Lindsay. Percentage of 0 to 100%, how much time on a weekly basis do they spend on revenue generating activities?
Someone said 0 to 10%.
0 to 10%. Who is that?
That was Jim Connolly.
Jim Connolly, good guess.
Steve said 30%.
30%.
75.
75%.
Randy Springs said 15.
15%. All right, here's what we find. No more than 10% of time is spent on revenue generating activities for the lowest 20%. Let's take a look at the middle performers, the mediocre performers. It's around 25% of their week is spent in revenue generating activities, having conversation in a capacity that's consistent with, should we be doing more business? That's what we're looking at here. And then the top 20%ers, up to 65% of their week is spent in revenue generating activity, having conversations with people that have the capacity to make a decision, finding pain, understanding budgets, navigating the sophisticated enterprise level decision-making processes. For those of you that are selling to major accounts across the country, maybe you're a key account manager yourself. You manage one account. That becomes very difficult, but your job is always to be selling. So we understand what that looks like. I just wanted to give you a sense of where are the elite and then benchmark that against where are you. So let's do something else. I mentioned trust earlier. 5 levels of sales competency that we're going to take a look at, and how our prospects perceive us, because here's your challenge. How are your prospects perceiving you, and do you know that? And I think we'll answer that question when we take a look at these in ascending order levels of sales competency. Number 1 is vendor, okay? It's the lowest form of selling. You're looked at, perceived at by your prospects as a vendor, by your customers as a vendor. And vendors sell, why? Because they've got the lowest price. And I've got to imagine that if you've taken a half hour out of your Friday morning to be here, you don't want to be known as this guy or gal who's got the lowest price. So let's take a step up. Step up is problem solvers. Problem solvers sell because they fix things. They're wonderful at fixing things. Here's the problem with a problem solver. Number 1, they get a surface level problem and they immediately go into premature elaboration of sharing the 67 different ways that we can solve your problem. And what they don't do is take a look at that service level issue and say, all right, I understand the problem, but let's do something else. Let's go to a second level. What is causing that problem? How long has that problem been going on? What have you tried to do about it? They forget to ask these questions because as soon as they find a problem, they want to fix it. And then the third level of pain, they don't understand how that problem and the cause impacts not only the organization, but the department and the individual in question that we're having a conversation with. So problem solvers are great. The issue is they start fixing too early, and they oftentimes find themselves dealing with prospects and even account clients who ghost them, who go away after a proposal's been submitted. Consultants are fantastic because they've got expertise, and this is where selling starts to change. But here's the problem with expertise, and it's similar to your problem solvers down here. Because we have this expertise and because we're desperate to share how much expertise we have and how smart we are and how we fix all these different types of issues, we share it way too soon. And so they oftentimes have problems with free consulting. They're giving away that expertise too soon and too much in volume. Partner. If we get up to partner, this is the fourth level of sales competency or respect as looked upon by the perception of your prospect. And so if we take a look at a partner sells because they build relationships. And that's fantastic. But the question is the relationship built on you like me, or is the relationship built on you respect me? Because how many people do we know that are well liked, but nobody wants to do business with them, versus somebody who's respected? And that's where we're going to go up to the next level of trusted advisor. Trusted advisors sell because they build ironclad trust with everybody around them. How do I know if I'm a trusted advisor? If you're a trusted advisor, your accounts are feeding you, spoon feeding you, buckets of referrals. If you're not getting buckets of referrals, I'm not convinced that you're at trusted advisor level. How do I know this so well? Because I sold at this level down here for about 10 years and it killed me. So I understand the difference between being a vendor and being a trusted advisor, and they couldn't be more different. And so for you, I want you to ask yourself this question. Am I selling at the vendor or problem solver level, or am I up here at trusted advisor and partner? And I'm going to give you 5 questions, by the way, that you can ask that's going to be a litmus test for this. We know in account management, we oftentimes have to do executive reviews within those accounts. There's 5 questions that you can ask that are going to differentiate you from your competition. The first question is, hey, 2 years ago when we started working together, why did you hire me? That's question number 1. Why did you hire me? Second question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being terrible, 10 being couldn't be doing any better, how are we doing? If that question scares you, you have not reached these 2 levels. So that's one litmus test. The third question is, hey, why would you fire me? Why would you fire me? Why would you fire us? Why would you stop using our products and services? Again, if you can't ask that question, or that question strikes fear in your mind, it means that we haven't built trust and authenticity and a genuine approach with our customer. So I want to know why they would fire me. I want to know where we're falling down so we know exactly what we need to do in order to get better. Number 4 is, what else should we be doing with you that we're not currently doing with you? How else can we be helping you that we're not helping you now? So I want to understand what that looks like, because it gives me the impetus to talk about upselling and cross-selling. And then finally, the last question is some iteration of asking for a referral, at which point I might say, Jim, we've had a great relationship over the past 2 years. Here's why I like working with you. You make decisions. You're an agent of change. You're not afraid to shake things up, and you implement the technology that we sell. So I love working with people like that. That's who I'm looking for. I'm building my book of business just like you are. So if you were me, who would you ask to be introduced to that shares your traits? So do we have those talk tracks down? It all goes back to the elements of the playbook, but this is how we build trust within our organization. So again, take a look at this and then audit yourself. Scale 1 to 10, where are you? Let's do this. I talked about having a tool for compartmentalization, that you can audit your book of business and say, all right, where are these prospects, and for most of you, where are these customers going to fall if I were going to put them into some buckets and then build a customized and adapted sales template that says this is how we attack them. So if we look at these 4 different areas, in our acronym is CARE, KEEP starts here. And a KEEP client looks like this. Essentially, we've maxed out how much business we can be doing with that client. We've got a comfortable relationship, it's acceptable. You're going to see other criteria here: low level of vulnerability, minimal investment, managed service costs. All those things are acceptable, but the potential for us to grow that account really isn't there. So we want to keep them in keep or maintenance mode. So what is our strategic plan in order to do that? We have to bucket or categorize our folks in there. Attain. Perhaps in your conversations, you've received some referrals from some of your accounts. And these are new pieces of business that are out there for the taking. And so if it's a new piece of business, it means we've got a low level of vulnerability to lose it because we don't have it. So what do we have to lose to go after it? And then certainly there is a high projected acceptable profitability level if we were to secure a relationship with them. Let's look down here, recapture. How many of us have done business with folks over the course of the years, the months, the weeks that we've been in business, and then they've gone away and we don't understand why they've gone away? And that's one of the biggest pains in account management. We had this wonderful account, all of a sudden they evaporated, they went away, we're not sure why. Recapturing them takes a specific level of skills that's going to differ from a keep account or an attain account. So again, low level of vulnerability because we're not doing business with them, but how do we get back into that account? Who do we know on LinkedIn that we're connected with, or is a second connection that we can reach back out and say, hey, we've done business in the past, that relationship dissolved. My guess is under no circumstances would you ever consider doing business with us again. Challenge them to say, no, that's not true, we would. And then under what circumstances would it make sense for us to start a new dialogue? So some ideas there. And then finally, expand. And this is where we want to land and expand our current account base. So if we take a look at the criteria here, they're a current major client, but maybe we've only got like 20, 30% of market share with them. And we want to get up to 60 or 70 or 80. We just want to raise the bar. So if we're going to do that, what does that strategic selling process look like? Because it's going to differ from everything else that we're doing. So have you taken the time to categorize each of your accounts and where they are on this model? Because it's going to give you the playbook and the roadmap then to be able to build success with them. Let's do something else. By the way, I don't want to forget this. If you type top 10 into the chat box, you're going to get an email from us with a copy of these top 10 behaviors. If we take a look at salespeople in general, and we were to list what are the top 10 things that salespeople in general are doing daily, weekly, and monthly to predict success, to become elite performers, you see the list here, and we've color-coded this for you. If it's in green, that means it's more of a hunter responsibility. If it's in yellow, that means it's more of a hybrid responsibility, hunter and farmer. If it's in red, it's more of a farmer responsibility. But the bottom line is this: do we have a methodology to execute these 10 behaviors, and do we understand the frequency with which we should be executing them? So for us in account management, servicing customers, what is our methodology for that? What is our process for it? Account management and territory development. Do we understand everybody that we have to know within that account? Have we gone wide enough and deep enough? And there are probably 10 behaviors that we can list underneath that. And then in our territory, have we done a market research study that says, here are all the people that we could conceivably be doing business with that our current customers could make an introduction to? So that's what we're looking for here for those of you that are account managers. Here's something else: continuous education. Are you constantly sharpening the saw? You're here, you're paying attention this morning. It tells me you're at least interested in something like that. That's good. And then this, let me just cross out Sandler. Execution of a selling system. Are we able to do that? And if we were to rate ourselves on a scale of 1 to 10, again, from hello to we're shaking hands and doing business, how competent am I? What is my aptitude and able to be able to execute that system? Or am I doing what roughly 80% of the sales world is doing, and that's just winging it? Winging it doesn't work frequently enough for us to be able to rely on it and predict success. How many of us over the course of a quarter, and here we are at the end of the first quarter, have forecasted something to close on March 29th? And here we are on March 29th, and now it's going to get pushed out to April, and then it's going to get pushed out to May. So I have to have predictability within my process and system. All right, let's do this. Prospecting tactics. Have we built out our prospecting roadmap? And what I mean by this is, do we have a 10-lane highway in which we can garner new relationships? I told you, if you want to become indispensable as an account manager, we have to be able to go wider and deeper, not only within our current accounts, but be able to solicit referrals. And I don't care if you hand those off to a BDR. I don't care if you hand them off to a partner. I don't care if you handle them yourself. But if you want to become indispensable and you want to raise your stature, then that's something that we have to do individually. Now, I've got 10 different prospecting tactics that are on here. You could probably throw on 5 to 10 more, but here's what we have to ask ourselves. Am I doing these things? What is the frequency with which I'm doing these things? And are they leading me to unique conversations with people that have the capacity to make a decision? That's my KPI. It's all I care about on a weekly basis is how many conversations have I had with folks that have the capacity to make a decision? And give them a 30-second commercial that says, maybe you don't care about this, maybe you do. Everything in red is something that you can do as an account manager. Everything in black, it might be a little bit more difficult, but is it impossible for us to carve out 10 minutes a day over the course of 240 work days, over the course of a year to make some prospecting dials? No, and if we did that, 2 dials over the course of 240 days is going to give me somewhere near 500 dials. And how many decision makers can we get a hold of in that 10 minutes a day? So that's going to be a key for us. Something else, referrals. Am I asking for referrals at every interaction? And do I have 7 different ways that I can do it so that I'm not perceived as a salesperson? Webinars. We're doing a webinar right now. If I could get this to work, there we go. We're doing a webinar right now. What's holding you back from hosting a webinar and inviting some folks in to share some content expertise that's going to take your notoriety to the next level? You can do it. If we can do it, you most certainly can do it. So is it in our behavioral plan for the next 3 quarters of the year? And how are we going to supplement that with some social selling? So if we understand what these look like and we build out a cookbook, it looks like this. And by the way, if you want to customize a prospecting activities worksheet or a cookbook, all you have to do is let us know. We can send you this as well. Also, if you ever want to crash a sales masterclass in which we actually do this in person live in Naperville, you're welcome to join us. We're going to send you a link. You can click on it. You can choose what your favorite topic would be. We'd be happy to invite you in. But the bottom line is this. What are my activities that I have to do? And if you're in account management and you're not prospecting and you're not being asked to prospect, doesn't matter. You still have activities that you're committed to that you have to execute. So what do those activities look like that are going to do this? Drive revenue. What is the frequency with which we should be doing these? And then the goal. The goal is never revenue. Take revenue out of play. Revenue is an outcome. I'm interested in what's the process that's going to get me to that outcome. If I can forget about the outcome and get addicted to and execute the process flawlessly, the outcome takes care of itself. So what I'm looking for is unique contacts or unique conversations that I'm making while I'm executing these prospecting activities. And then I build a roadmap for preparation that says, what do I need to do in order to be competent, in order to competently execute these with some aptitude at a high level? So well, I've given you a lot today. I've given you about 2 days worth of content in 30 minutes. We're going to start bringing this thing to its logical conclusion. Before we do that, I want to give you some very quick time management hacks. So if we take a look at time management, and I know that for a lot of you on this call, your capacity is at the max. I have to be able to look at your calendar and say, there are specific blocks of time that you've dedicated to that you are going to execute these behaviors, and it's non-optional behavior. If I looked at your calendar right now, over the course of this week, over the course of the next quarter, would I see those time blocks in your calendar? If I don't, they're not going to happen. We know that through experience. Stay on goal time versus clock time. I'm not really interested in working from 8 to 5 if nothing is happening during 8 to 5. So I have to become goal conscious and oriented. Maybe my goal is to make 8 new contacts today. And if I do that, I know that I've had success. That's the difference between clock time and goal time. And then finally, diversify your activity. I have to have 10 different ways that I prospect, because if one of them dries up, I want to make sure I'm diversified enough where I can reach out to folks using other means that are going to fill my pipeline for me. So let's do this. I promised you a piece of potent technology as a tool that we will make available to you. And Lindsay is going to type in this link to you so that you can have access to it. What is called a CEL, Sandler's e-learning library. And we've got 1,000 to 2,000 hours of content, from webinars to podcasts to actual worksheets and PDFs and tools that you can download on this to supplement you, whether you're a leader, whether you're a business owner, a CEO, a president, whether you're a producer, a business development rep, an account manager, whether you support those people, it doesn't matter who you are, there is something in here for you, and you get access to it for a year. So we have a potent tool called Sandler Online. This is a very light version of it, but you're going to find that you can't get through all this content over the course of a year. So if you want it, click on the link, you can download it. It's our gift to you, for you being present, for you keeping your head where your feet are today. Last thing, this is my challenge. This is my challenge to everybody here. Don't let what we did die on the vine. Send me an email, and what I'm looking for is, what was your biggest takeaway? What was your biggest takeaway from what we talked about today? And in return, I'll send you the prospecting activities worksheet. But take what your lessons learned or aha moments were today and put them into place, apply them, have the guts to do something different than you did at 8:30, or if you're on the East Coast, 9:30 when you join this call. So with that, we're right at 30 minutes. Again, I want to thank you and I want to honor you and acknowledge you for your time invested. We always enjoy doing these. Thank you for your feedback and staying active. Until next time, good selling. Have a great weekend.